Energy Minister reduces fuel prices by 8 pesos. This comes amidst cries by Ghanaians to hashtag fix the country in the face of harsh living conditions. We have the very latest. No prosecutions, no charges, no convictions. That's all there is to report 2 years after the death of journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale. Today on Total Recall, we ask why. And today, the men will be separated from the boys and the women will show their prowess as St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Mary's, Accra Girls and Chemu SHS square off for a place in the National Science and Maths Quiz final competition. My name is Daniel Daze. This is The Pulse. Welcome. Fix the country. That's the clarion call by some Ghanaians who have since yesterday been expressing their frustration with what they describe as the high cost of living. Their complaints come as new taxes come into effect officially from today. Many say the cost of water, electricity and others is burdening them. This afternoon, conveners of the hashtag Fix the Country Now social media protest have written to the police to notify them of their intention to stage a protest over hardships in the country and the neglect of leadership. The group, in a notice to the Ghana Police Service over the planned protest, said the event is being organized on the back of a string of consistently broken promises by successive governments and in the exercise of their democratic rights as citizens to express frustration over perennial government incompetence, refusal and/or inability to fix the country. I quote, "We will speak with conveners of the group shortly, but some commercial drivers are unhappy about the increase in fuel prices." Two driver unions, Concerned Drivers Union and True Drivers Union, say they are rolling out a 40% increase in transport fares by Monday. My colleague Faustina Safo has been out there speaking with the drivers.
I think the price is too high. I don't know if it's because of the taxes or what. I think the government can do something about it. Honestly, something needs to be done. And once fuel price goes up, it affects everything.
For me, actually we sell online, okay? And once we sell online, the fuel price goes up. It makes some of these clients have difficulty to order the stuff that they do. So imagine a client is buying something 65 cedis and have to pay a delivery of 40 cedis. How would they come back and buy again if the delivery is so exorbitant?
So far the fuel prices have gone up. We know that obviously it's going to affect a lot of things. And it's obviously, if it affects a lot of things, okay, negatively, we know the hardship that it will be on the workers if workers' salaries have not been increased.
Aban we oban anya sa anwum no woto ye. Oba se oba na ye nyina ye ho ato ye. Ya driver 42. Efa petrol hu nsem. Enso oba no de bia petrol ko soro. Ye nti ase. Sa no nka oba na ko sa no kan anka ye ntomma no. Enti onso ho na petrol nsem in fact. Yes, you put two petrol gun so you won't some fast.
To be frank, auntie, for any dear, a year high to the extent that we are Juma, yes, we are year Juma for 20. Some, but yeah, because unya, unchiru, we are Juma hand to mouth. So, Intanka, slow by an uncle, share. Boy, I also just obey baby my yes, way then, your I told you a crap because you see a gun for.
Well, I'm so much too much. Yes, we scan Nick room and say, yes, I might want to you to the abundance of Kakaka, the Jumano. Full amount of so much romantism, Cacasina, Besso, Botum, Nedibia, my ceremony, and bound almost no question, Marshall School, their Costco, and does it.
While the increase in fuel prices may have a rippling effect on the prices of goods and services, so brace yourself to pay more. I'm Faustina Safo for JoyNews.
Now, like we said earlier, the Energy Minister has been meeting with stakeholders over a possible reduction in fuel prices. Duncan Amwa is a member of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. He is indeed the head of that chamber, and he joins us on the line. Mr. Amwa, we understand you've been in that meeting with the Energy Minister. What has come out of it?
Thank you, Daniel. We closed not long ago from a meeting convened by the Energy Minister on the back of recent increases in fuel prices. We had requested that he exercise his authority in calling the NPA to order by reviewing some of the margins that the NPA has slapped on your fuel prices, which saw fuel prices move, over and above everybody's pocket. That social media has been abuzz since yesterday when these new prices started coming out. The minister has listened to all sides, and what I can confirm is that he has decided, as the Minister for Energy, Republic of Ghana, to review these margins down by as much as 8%. And for that, we at COPEC can only say thank you for listening and prompt and appropriate action that he's taking so far.
So, Mr. Amwa, when you say 8 pesos, are we talking about 8 pesos per liter or per gallon?
No, per every single liter. He's reviewed those margins down. What I can confirm is that the NPA had added 3 pesos to UPPF. The minister shut it down to 2. They had added 5 pesos to fuel market margin. He shut that down to 5. So he shut it down by 3. And then again, both margin, he shut it down by at least 2 pesos on there. And then he also shut the PDM margin by a peso further. And so, he's given some 8 pesos relief to us on pump prices. And these relief would be taking effect, effectively immediate, but most likely to reflect at the pump tomorrow.
Mr. Amwa, what would you say to those who argue that an 8 peso reduction will not do much to cushion what most drivers and what most transport operators have been going through?
I would be tempted to agree with them. It wouldn't do as much as we would have wished. If those who came to the meeting would say, we were hoping that we would scrap everything completely. But then there's also some other compelling argument for why some of these margins would have to go up. All well and good. The minister at least has listened to what we all have to say and has taken the right steps, if you ask some of us. It might not be as much, but for significance, he has done something. I'm sure in the coming days, public pressure and public discussion and agitation could also help, even the presidency or the authorities look at the fuel pricing properly and see how best we can reduce in significant numbers some of these price indicators. But as it is, the whole deregulation policy, if you listen to the minister today, would also be scrutinized in the coming days. And wherever there are excesses, I'm sure the minister will do the needful like he has done today.
Mr. Amwa, help us understand that better, your very final line. What does the minister mean when he says he's going to look at the deregulation policy which was implemented as far back as 2015?
Clearly, one expected that policy to have triggered a certain market competition. We haven't seen that much. The policy is currently fraught with a lot of challenges as far as third-party supplies is concerned. And so you have people sometimes loading products. They have legitimate license to load, but they get all sorts of exemption and are able to price these products far cheaper than the market should ordinarily price it. What happens is they collapse the very legitimate one, do not contribute the taxes that they need to contribute. And that clearly would make authorities want to come back every time for more taxes, whereas there's quite a lot in the system already. So it needs quite a bit of tweaking, and we would be happy that in the coming days, like he's promised, we would subject the entire policy to some comprehensive, I don't know how to call it, but if you put it under the microscope, whatever germs or bacteria in there, I'm sure we'll be able to expunge them, further reducing fuel prices for Ghanaians.
Do you foresee a return to the regime before deregulation where government through the NPA was putting out the ex-pump price and all BDCs and OMCs had to comply with that directive?
Daniel, at current market segmentation, we are not far from almost a regulated pricing market. If you saw yesterday, when Vivo put out their pricing, it didn't take quite too long. You saw the other giants, Total, give you similar pricing. So you end up wondering, where exactly does the deregulation play? Are they buying from the same source? Are they pricing from the same boardroom? In name, yes, there's a deregulated market, but in practice, there's quite too little at this point to distinguish these market forces.
So
and
you would
a
support
thorough review is necessary and due at this time.
So you would support a return to a regulated market?
Not entirely, Daniel. Deregulation is not entirely a bad policy, but of course, there's quite some encumbrances here and there that needs to be dealt with. One would expect that the little inefficiencies in there that is also contributing to high fuel prices. The minister would at least look at these things like he has promised and get them fixed. It will be in the interest of everybody if we could get back to the round table and after deliberating on these, the third-party supplies like the OMCs today have indicated is a problem to them. If after looking at all the possible issues surrounding this, if the ministry is able to still do further 5-10%, I'm sure that will be also pretty significant for Ghanaians to get some further relief.
Now, Mr. Amwa, you mentioned that if it is possible, we can remove some 5 or 10 pesos. The last time I checked with the experts, about 35 to 40% of every liter of fuel that we buy is going to taxes. I mean, the amount we pay per liter of fuel goes to taxes, 35 to 40%. Are there any specific levies in there that you have identified in your position could be done away with?
Daniel, I can confirm to you, as of this morning, your taxes per liter has climbed to as much as 60%.
Say that again for me. Say that again for me, Mr. Duncan Amwa, for emphasis. Did you say 6
liter on your current price build-up? Is in the region of 60%.
60?
Yes, we were doing around 46, 48. And then you do have about 12% additional taxes added, the new charges you have at the pump. So it's gone up quite significantly. And if you ask off the top of my head, if I were acting as the Minister for Energy, or if I were to stand in his shoes or the shoes of cabinet, or for that matter, government altogether, this price stabilization and recovery levy, I would have done away with it. If I also had my own way, Daniel, I would have done away entirely with the first margin that today is standing at 10%. If I had my own way, I would reduce significantly what you call the energy sector levies that the finance ministry has today added another 20% to the 48 that existed already. These are quite a few of the taxes that we believe can be looked at further. And if the minister or the government finds it worthy, they could still go down on further.
Now, Mr. Amwa, if my memory serves me well, and I stand to be corrected here, the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy was introduced way back in 2015 thereabouts, when at the time the international oil pricing for crude was going down to as low as $40, close to $20 per barrel. Government introduced that so that the revenue we get from selling our crude is complemented by how much we pay when we buy our fuel. Would you say, because at the time, the price projection for the year that Mr. Tekpe put in his budget was $53 per barrel, and we were selling our oil for about $40 per barrel. International crude prices are north of 60 now. Would you say that the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy has outlived its importance because we are selling oil at a price that we can recoup enough revenues from?
Indeed, Daniel, your question captured our sentiment aptly. You couldn't have asked it any better. We do not have any justification at this point to continue charging PSRL against Ghanaians, knowing very well that we are not even subsidizing fuel for anybody. We are not stabilizing anything for anyone. A deregulated market throws out its own prices, and the BDGs are not coming to you for forex differential. And so it's quite baffling why we continue to charge our people that which we call stabilization and recovery levy. I'm sure that has become almost a nuisance tax at this point and must give way in the face of these increasing costs of fuel within the country.
That's well and good, sir, but we know that with the energy sector levies, justification has been made for it, especially by the finance minister reading the last budget when it was increased. I mean, for instance, we know that the ESLA bond that was procured by this government is going to clear some of the legacy debts in the energy sector. We've taken a loan and we are taking these taxes to pay off that loan bit by bit so that basically the banks don't crash. Is that not an essential tax that we cannot do without?
Daniel, what is quite sad for some of us, if you look at how much you and I are paying towards the energy sector, yet we continue to have so much of debt as far as the power side is concerned. You get worried and start asking, are we indeed advancing these extra money to the originally intended purposes for which we did set them up? I do not think that our ESLA collection is properly being accounted for anyway. I also do not think that we are even applying the revenues from ESLA for the intended purposes for which we have come to the people to collect these monies. If you do 48 pesos per litre, multiplied by the 11.7 million you do daily, multiplied by the almost 350 million litres you do monthly, that is a significant amount of money anytime. Unfortunately, the energy sector, i.e. the power sector, continues to reel under huge debt. The debt only keeps growing whilst we keep paying, and I do not think that those monies have been accounted for adequately, or their uses have been as judicious as they would have expected. Ghanaians would have expected the authorities to use these money.
But finally, Mr. Amwa, before we let you go, because we'll soon be speaking with the Concerned Drivers Association, we're coming out of one of the most difficult economic years globally. Some are calling it the greatest crisis in recent times. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic. Surely, government needs the money, every single peso that we can pay them.
Yes. You know, when we talk of COVID, the impact was not on government alone. It was on everybody, especially businesses, especially individuals, homes, and everything. And so it becomes quite difficult if government would wish to offload all the challenges to the individuals, as though the individuals within the country or the citizens didn't suffer from the harsh ravages or whatever conditions that COVID brought to all of us. And so what we are saying is that, look, collect much as you can, but also be sensitive to the suffering of the people from whom you are collecting these monies. That is all we've been saying. We are not saying don't add taxes, but we are saying that do so in moderation, bearing in mind that the people from whom you are collecting these taxes are themselves also, inconvenienced by COVID altogether and are not finding it any easier than government itself is probably finding it currently.
Mr. Amwa, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on The Pulse. Dr. Amwa is Executive Director for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Like I said earlier, we've been joined by David Agboado. He's Public Relations Officer for the Concerned Drivers Association. They intend to increase fares by 40% on Monday. Mr. Agboado, thanks for joining us. First of all, what's your reaction to the news that you'll be paying 8 pesos less per litre from tomorrow?
Mr. Dazi, thank you very much. But that is not a news to me. The reason why it's not a news to me, Mr. Amwa, that Kanamo has explained everything. You see, those nuisance taxes on our petroleum sector must be scrapped off. That one will be a news. Store recovery levy is store operating, but we are paying a levy. Price stabilization margin is the price stabilized, that we are paying that margin. So those nuisance taxes are not tax that we're supposed to pay. So to me, that 8 pesos or something that they have been doing, they have cheated or they have killing it for so long. To me, it's not a news to me.
So, Mr. Agboado, I just want to know and get this confirmation that in spite of the 40%, in spite of the 8 pesos decrease of fuel prices per litre, you still intend to increase your fares by 40% on Monday. Is that the case?
Yes, it will be so. Because early this year, the petrol price early this year was 19 cedis 45 pesos. But as I'm talking to you now, Almighty Guel, which is owned by the state, is selling it for a litre price for 6 cedis 13 pesos. That's a litre price. The gallon, if you calculate it, is 27 cedis 58 pesos per gallon. That's what the state or the government is taking from us. So you taking out of 80 pesos out of that money, you have taken 8 cedis from us, and you say you are taking 8 pesos out of it. You have done something. You haven't. It's not even a tick of the iceberg. 8 pesos out of 8 cedis. Does that mean something? Was no. So me, that 8 pesos, to me, yes, sir, it's not very relevant to me. Okay,
Mr. Agboado, since you mentioned toll recovery levy, I'm reading to you from a publication put out in 27 September 2016 on BNFT, where Mr. Kwame Wardako, who was at the time MD of toll, mentioned that the toll debt recovery levy has to go on for another 10 years to 2026 before the woes of toll are, should we say, out of our books. Is this not something that this government possibly cannot do much about?
You know something? What are the wounds of the toll? What are the wounds of the toll that they talk of before saying the wounds will be healed? Nobody knows it. It is them that sit around something and concur or come out with something that toll is on this thing. Because now everything must be accounted for. And we are not seeing these things. Once we are not seeing these things, and you are saying we should pay for it, it's not there. You see, when Mr. Duncan Amwa was talking, I was listening attentively. What he says for is right. You see, we have automatic adjustment formula. That deregulation is the paramount that we think it will be like when you go to Shell, you will get it like 6 cedis, 10 pesos. When you go to Total, you will get it like 5 cedis, 99 pesos. But yes, sir, you go to Total, you get it 6 cedis, 13 pesos. You go to Guel, the same thing. You go to Shell, the same thing. So where is the deregulation? So all these things that they have bought and keep it honest that we are paying is senseless. Sorry to say, it's very, very senseless.
Well, We'll take those apologies, Mr. Buado, for using the expression. But for the sake of educating the public, I just wanted to read for you very quickly what exactly was said about the toll debt recovery levy when it was being charged. Now, according to Mr. Wada, I read from the BNFT publication from 2016, government is keen on raising a 917 million Ghana cedi long-term loan facility, which will last a 10-year period to settle toll's indebtedness. So basically, Mr. Wadaku told us at the time that we've taken a loan to settle toll's indebtedness back in 2016. It will take us another 10 years to pay. You or I can't do anything about it. But I acknowledge those said that this is just one of the many taxes in the build-up. And Mr. Dankanamwa did mention a number of other taxes there. But clearly, with the toll situation, not that much can be done. We've taken the loan. We have to pay it off.
Mr. Dazi, all that you said is somebody saying, I'm still on that point. That you see, Mr. Wadaku can come and say this because he is managing there. We in our side, when we go to the pump to buy the fuel, those margins, which as I'm talking to you, I would say 99% of the drivers doesn't know the taxes on the petroleum sector or the petrol. They didn't know anything about it. What they know is Yatufangumu or the fuel price have been increased. But the taxes, the components on it, they didn't know anything. Except we that are, doing the communication bit.
Right.
That is why we are able to know one or two things. Even the current administration of let me say GPIQ, much of them doesn't know the taxes, the component that is on the petroleum sector. So when they go to bargain, instead of them pointing out things that are not tangible, pointing out things that are, if the state or the state representatives come, this is how much we are coming out with. We are coming out with 15%. That ends it. Meanwhile, you see, this transport business that we are doing, it is not only fuel that we are adding up, or it is not fuel that we are using to do the transport business. Other components have added to it. So if we base on fuel alone and say we are coming out with 10 or 15%, it doesn't work well.
Right.
Because DVLA charges this very year have been up by 15%. Port has increased paper charges 40%. You see, if you add all those things together before you come out with fuel, like 14%, if you boil up these things all to the transport, in fact, it's unbearable. It's unbearable. That's why we concerned drivers, we are saying the 40% that we want, government should give it to us so that we can be able to run the transport efficiently.
What happens if government refuses to agree with you with your 40% increment? Government does negotiations through the GRTCC, which I'm sure has the GPRTU on it. If government says do not increase by 40%, what do you do?
We will still do something about it. The reason why we will still do something about it is that, you see, it will be, the negotiation is ongoing. I know tomorrow we'll go to the table and we will still negotiate. And when Mr. Amwa was talking, I don't know, I joined it later, but I don't know whether he explained that this is only tax company that have been able to settle. The oil marketing company itself, they will be increasing fuel soon or later. They will be increasing fuel. And it will all add up. And if they increase, we will not increase first again. That's why we are calling for this percentage to settle it up so that we will not be agitating the next days or the next month to come that we want increments on fuel. So when we go to the table tomorrow, I know before the price come out tomorrow, we will be able to settle at least 40%.
Thank you very much, David Abuado. He speaks for the Concerned Drivers Union. Now, one of the conveners for the hashtag Fix the Country Now, Oliver Barker Vomawo, has joined me on Zoom. Mr. Vomawo, thank you very much. You're protesting on Sunday. Why? Mr. Vomawo, why are you embarking on a protest on Sunday?
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Yes. So I'm saying that we're protesting because this country has lost its soul. For so long, we've been lacking honesty in our body politic. and we refuse to be honest with our citizens, we continue to gaslight them. So for us, this is the protest to save the soul of the nation. And there's a point where enough becomes enough. I think we are seeing that point. And this is why we are here for what we are planning to do on Sunday.
So I have with me a letter that you wrote to the police service requesting, informing them, because that's what the law requires, that you simply inform them that you will embark on this protest. Has the police service responded?
So we are currently still at the police station as we speak, actually. Our surrogates are at the police station. At the first instance, the police were claiming that a letter which is addressed to the Ghana Police Service, Accra, is too vague. So we are waiting for other direction in which they want to be addressed. I don't know of any other way in which to address the Ghana Police Service. So we are still dealing with that process. But whatever the case may be, the most important thing is that the law requires us to give them notice. If they refuse to accept the notice that we are giving to them, well, the law recognizes constructive notice as well. The notice is online, which they're privy to, and we are there trying to actively give this to them. If they're refusing to even accept the letter, then I sort of wonder what kind of democratic society we claim to be in.
So what you're telling us is that whether or not the police accepts your notice today, you will still march on Sunday.
What I'm telling you is that the police have a responsibility in law to accept a notice to them. There's no basis on which they can refuse a notice. We have complied with the law. The letter is very detailed. It's available for everybody to verify. We set out COVID-19 protocols. Even if it is not the place of the police to vet that, they can go to court and decide and let the court decide for them whether or not this is a protest that the Constitution allows at this time.
I just want to have that clarity, Mr. Vomawo. Will you hit the streets if the police says that for one reason or another, they cannot accept your notice as duly seen?
What I am saying to you is that there is no basis in law or in fact or anywhere for the police to say they cannot accept the letter. So we are there now. We are very certain that the police will accept the letter. Because there's no other basis for which they will refuse it. So I anticipate that we are going to go forward, having complied with the law.
I'm just asking because you mentioned that the police said you did not address it to the right quarters, sir.
No, the police says a letter addressed to the Ghana Police Service is vague. So we're asking them for direction on how they want to be addressed. If they want to be called Kofi Mensah, we are happy to write that into the protest, into the letter. It is not going to change the fact of what needs to be done. That's what we are trying to do. Do you understand the fine point the distinction I'm trying to draw?
Now, since this hashtag went viral over the weekend, there has been some response on social media, Mr. Bakavomo. Yes. But even before we get to that one, the Energy Ministry is informing us through someone who was at that meeting that there will be a reduction in petrol price. Will that influence your decision to demonstrate in any way?
You know, it is very interesting. It's also very predictable. You know, it's been the way in which governments have acted over the years. But you see, we are at a crisis point. Our letter to the police and the notification to the police says this comes on the back of failures and institutionalized failures and a string of consistent broken promises by successive governments. And it is that frustration with perennial governmental incompetence or refusal or inability to fix the country that is why we are doing this. If the thinking is that a reduction in petrol prices today is what is going to keep this in check, I think they've lost the plot and completely misapprehend why there are 57,000 tweets on Twitter alone endorsing fix the country.
So what of the response that you've been seeing on social media? I've seen some senior members of the ruling party, or the governing party, I must say, for instance, that Nana is fixing the country. Some have said that let's fix the country together. What do you make of that response?
So, first of all, I mean, I think that a conversation with our elected government is important. And we will take that conversation, whatever form it comes in. But in speaking back to the massive Ghanaian citizens who are talking, my hope is that the government is reflective, it does a bit of soul searching, and acknowledges the injustice that has been done to people in this country. For some reason, the responses we are getting do not seem to comprehend people's angst and anxiety. And so, for instance, you've seen certain people use very unprintable words like Jimmy, which means that this is foolishness, that we need to fix ourselves before we even think of fixing the country. And I'm saying that I mean, the project of fixing oneself is not mutually exclusive from fixing one country. It goes hand in hand. And so if this is being offered as a counter narrative for the overwhelming demand about how things are going wrong in this country, then again, the government has completely lost the plot. But a process of fixing oneself also involves acknowledging that your government is not acting right and your state has failed you consistently and calling them to account. And so this is the process of fixing ourselves. So we are having that conversation with them. If that's the way in which they choose to have that conversation, then Ghanaians will have it a better judge for themselves as to when we did move out of the frame of being spectators and engaging the government as citizens. This is the way in which they responded to us. And everybody will be able to see that clearly. So this is the democratic process playing itself out.
But for some of those expressions, they've been retracted, have they not? For instance, the Majority Chief Whip, Mr. Arnold Domprey, has issued an apology for some of the language he used, which I will not repeat here.
So I think we need to hold people accountable more than that. You know, I mean, Honorable Arnold Domprey is a member of Parliament, is chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee in Parliament. Where that came from, you need to dig deep into where the sentiments came from. It was a long statement which contained a whole lot of statements which were printed and crafted into a beautiful art that they put out. Within that all long process, there was no soul searching to ask whether this is the right response. It's only in the face of overwhelming criticism about how they are dealing with this that they have come out to give a half-hearted apology. So the problem we need to engage is, why would your government would choose to speak to you this way? And what does it reveal? I think for me, it reveals a long practice or a long habit and practice and thinking that it's in the way in which elite institutions and our institutions relate to us.
So you do not accept Mr. Arnold Domprey's apology?
The apology is not towards me. The apology is for the people of Ghana, I think. That the people of Ghana feel offended by them, and they have to assess for themselves whether or not this is the way in which they want the elected officials to conduct themselves. I mean, apology is one of the easiest things to do. We've seen it consistently. So if the people of Ghana feel that an apology is sufficient, that is for them to judge.
Now, Mr. Bakavomo, I'm going to read a bit of your letter to the police, which is quite interesting. It's captioned "Significance of the Date." It says here, the date May 9th has been spontaneously and specifically chosen for two reasons. First, it captures the restless spirit of the over 126 Ghanaians who lost their lives on the May 9th Accra Sports Stadium disaster due to institutionalized incompetence and disregard for Ghanaian lives. Secondly, the protest commemorates the 26th anniversary of the Kumipreko demonstration of 11th May 1995. Thus, the event draws inspiration from the undying culture of protest and dissent that has forged our democracy and in which Kumipreko has become a synonym for our collective memory. I'll ask this directly, Mr. Bakavomo. Are you throwing a dig at the president? He was one of the leaders of the Kumipreko demonstration. Are you simply intended to, jab him?
You know, it is quite interesting to me that you would read this as a jab. And for me, it reveals that you think that the president's conduct in office do not live up to the ideals of Kumipreko and the ideals he marched for. And if that is the
I'm simply asking a question, Mr. Vomo. I'm just saying, Mr. Vomo, I'm simply asking a question. I would ask that you answer it and not try and make any sort of inferences from my statements. Thank you very much.
Sure. For me, I think the most important thing is that it is clear. Kumipreko represents in this country. It has nothing to do about the president or chief jobs. It's about what is uniquely Ghanaian. And for me, and for everybody associated with this movement, what is uniquely Ghanaian is being able to express dissent through street-level protest, to be able to gain street-level legitimacy for a protest movement. And that is what we are falling back on what is inspiring about what makes us unique as Ghanaians. And for Kumipreko, for which we have a lot of respect, represents that in our collective memory. And so we are relying on Kumipreko, as well as, let's not forget, the 126 Ghanaians who so continues to yearn for a better Ghana, for a Ghana that does not disregard the lives of its citizens. And that's why we are doing this. And so if for anybody, for the president himself, doing a soul searching, realizes that maybe I've strayed too far from what I was marching for some years back, would recognize himself in the young people who are speaking up, and perhaps take the journey that we all needed to take, that political governance in this country must stop undermining confidence and discouraging young people from having a stake in the country and how they want to improve it.
Thank you, Oliver Barker Vomawo. You're one of the conveners for the hashtag Fix the Country Now protest. He was speaking to us via Zoom. So you heard him say clearly the demonstration is on Sunday. Let's look at some of those social media comments which have dominated this conversation. Gabi Asari Oshiridako, known very well as a leading member of the NPP, says, no patriot can say he or she is against a clarion call to fix our country. After 64 years, we have run out of excuses. Let's get it fixed, and fixed now. Together, we can. Well, Kali J says, Ghanaians, hashtag fix the country. MP, no, because you don't respect. His summary of the call and the response. Kofi Jamar says, we need a leader tapped in Kwame Nkrumah's spirit, the one that will also learn from his mistakes and focus all his energy into making Ghana, that is the foundation, well established before setting out on the United States of Africa agenda. Ghana is still the chosen. Hashtag fix the country. King of Accra says, if you think hashtag fix the country is about bashing MPP and holding up another political party, then you are part of the problem because they have both done us wrong. That tweet is doing very well, you can see, with 620 retweets and over 1,400 likes. Black Spider says, all we're asking for is good roads, quality education, good healthcare, jobs with good salaries, affordable rent, good drinking water. Answer me, Mr. Big Man. Is this too much to ask for? Just a simple life is all we're asking for. That, I believe, is a line from Stone Boy's Run Go. Yes, that final line in the tweet there. Right, these people swore hashtags are useless and won't do anything, but they woke up at 6 a.m. to trend a hashtag. Hashtag fix the country. They're still live on the Pulse here on the Joy News channel. Still coming up. The men are separated from the boys. The women will show what they're made of. St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Mary's SHS, Accra Girls SHS, and Chemu SHS face off for a place in the national competition of the NSMQ. More from the regional championship, which is ongoing. And you're welcome back. This is The Pulse. Daniel Domelevo left office because he had reached retirement age. That's according to President Akufo-Addo, who has been defending his anti-graft record. He insists Ghana's position on the global fight against corruption rankings has improved since he took office in 2017. Mr. Akufo-Addo came under intense public criticism after he directed former Auditor General Daniel Domelevo to proceed on retirement. He's been speaking on the matter with US TV network, CNN.
There are laws in our country, and the Auditor General, like me, we should be some of the first to recognize the laws in our country. There's a time for retiring, which is prescribed by statute. They're not my-making. If you're 60 years old, you're supposed no longer to be able to work in the public service. The Auditor General came to 60 years old and then had to retire. So the expression, and I say so with great respect to you, that of forcing out, well, he was not forced out of government. He left office by the operation of law.
The president also talked about his government's response to the illegal mining menace.
We're determined to come to grips with it. In fact, this week, a major operation has been authorized by me, by the armed forces, to clear our rivers of all the delinquent machinery that is devastating and polluting our waters. They're called Shan fines. They are machines that are imported from China and have entered the gold mining sector of our economy with really devastating effects for our water bodies and also, of course, for our environment. So we're having to take some very strong measures to try to come to grips with it.
Away from that story, in a little over 2 years after investigator Ahmed Hussein Swale was killed by gunmen, no one has been charged, prosecuted or convicted for the offense. Mr. Swale, who worked closely with investigative journalist Anas Arimio Anas, was killed months after they had worked on a documentary on football corruption. Today on Total Recall, we put the spotlight on this unresolved murder.
Public on Tuesday viewed the much-anticipated number 12, Anas Arimio Anas's latest investigation.
In June 2018, investigative journalist Anas Arimio Anas released his number 12 documentary. He filmed then GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi engaged in influence peddling.
When we get the contracts, big contracts, we can go back and give them more money. And then we take over the whole country.
Ahmed Hussein Swale, described as a colleague of Anas, is said to have been instrumental in this project. Shortly after its release, Anas and his colleague became victims of series of verbal attacks spearheaded by Saint Central MP Kennedy Japan. On the evening of January 16, 2019, Ahmed Swale was shot dead by unidentified gunmen riding motorbikes.
He shot him first gunshot before Ahmed moved the car, and then the second one. So Ahmed was rushing, so he used the car to enter that kiosk, that saloon over there. So he used the car to enter, and then the man went there again and gave him the last shot, so make it three gunshots. He followed him into the shot and gave him 3 gunshots. Ahmed was inside the car. So as he received that 2 gunshots, the car moved by force and then entered the shop over there. So the car, it spoiled the glass and everything over there.
He was laid to rest shortly after. There were loud calls for the perpetrators to be brought to book.
It is within the bounds of capacity of the Ghana Police and the law and order community as a whole to fish out the perpetrators and bring them to book. They have a track record of dealing with such matters.
The calls received presidential backing.
I am deeply regretful that despite the best efforts of the police, the perpetrators of the murder of Ahmed Swale are still at large. But I assure you, this dossier will not be closed until they are brought to justice.
Then Director General of Police Public Affairs, ACP David Eklu, gave this update.
Now that the 15,000 cedi bounty has been placed on any information that would aid in arresting the suspects. Eyewitnesses have been interviewed, and as I speak now, 6 suspects have been arrested, questioned, and are currently on bail. In addition to that, 3 other persons that we believe they have information related to that matter have been questioned and have been given statement forms to give their statement to the police. They include the MP for Asin Central, Honorable Kennedy Japan, Mr. Kwesi Nyantakyi, and Anas Arimio Anas. They have all been given statement forms to give statements and return them to the police.
Fast forward to May 2021. No one has been charged for the murder.
There has been quite a number of unresolved murder cases. Key among them is the longer-standing Ahmed Swale matter. And indeed, there's a need for a resolution for that crime.
Attorney General Godfrey Yeboah-Dame demanded answers from the Ghana Police Service.
Indeed, there's a need for a resolution for that crime, because the resolution will actually even indicate the motive for the commission of the crime. Now it has become, it's gained currency that the person was killed on account of the work that he was doing. That may necessarily not be the case. The person could have been murdered not really on account of his work. It could have been as a result of many other concerns or motives. But it can only be ascertained through a resolution of that crime.
IGP James Opombuenu gave this response.
On the Ahmed Swale case, some progress has been made in terms of actions on the part of police. It may not be prudent to put that out in the public domain. We've taken certain steps in terms of investigation, and I believe that's a step further than the normal things that we are doing. But for purpose of the investigation, to the sanctity of the investigation, we might not be able to put it out to the general public, so we will not mention it. But when we are alone, we'll be able to give the details on that.
Only justice will help heal the family of Swale of the pain that his death has brought them.
Please come forward. Please give us the answers that we need. Please help us find the people who did this.
For now, the matter remains one of the many unresolved cases that has left respected state figure like Mohammed Ibn Chambers and Sam Jonah troubled.
Security and rule of law. In these two particular categories, we have declined. Slow justice system and some high-profile deaths which have not really come out with any clear convictions.
What is baffling is that those who used to have voices on these things seem to have lost their voices. People speak on issues based on who is in power. It's a definite silence suggesting that we are no longer concerned about issues that we complained about yesterday. The molestation and in some cases assassination of journalists, murder of MPs, corruption, the harassment of agents.
Only time will tell when the matter will get some form of closure.
Now, the Ghana Journalists Association is requesting for a roundtable conversation with the top hierarchy of the Ghana Police Service to find ways of preventing media attacks. 2 years after journalist Ahmed Hussein Swale was murdered, the culprits are yet to be found, while many journalists have been subjected to various forms of attack. Speaking at a ceremony to mark the International World Press Freedom Day, Vice President of the Ghana Journalists Association, Linda Asante-Jay, said the GJA needs more information on how investigations into the gruesome murder are going.
So we're happy when the Minister of Justice, through the courtesy call that he paid to the leadership of the Ghana Police Service, urging them to speed up with the investigations and making sure that at least the perpetrators of these media attacks are brought to book. But then we are also requesting for a roundtable meeting with the leadership of the with the security agencies as to how best we can prevent media attacks. Some of them can be prevented, so how best can we work together to prevent media attacks? Is it that they do not understand the work of the media, or they do, but then it's deliberate? These are some of the things that we have to engage the leadership of the security agencies and then find a lasting solution to it.
Right. Speaking about attacks, there's one specific issue. Ahmed Swale, it's been a number of years now. Like he's mentioned, the Attorney General had been speaking to the police, but not so much has come out of it. Is the GJ getting any update, or what exactly are you doing about that?
Yes, that is what I said, that if the president of this nation today granted an interview to CNN, and he did mention the issue of Ahmed Swale came up as to how far they've gone with it, because that is what is also affecting our ranking. Seriously, that is what is affecting our ranking. And the president affirmed government's support and willingness to ensure that the security agencies, whoever is in charge of the investigations, speak up and then make sure that the perpetrators are brought to book. And in fact, for the Attorney General, he was just sworn into office. It is too early for us to, start attacking him. But then, whilst we wait for our president, that is the president of GJA, to come from Namibia, we'll be calling on him to find out how far, because once you ask the police to speed up, at least we also expect that some follow-ups will be made, to ensure that really what the request that he made to them is being followed.
But Minister for Information Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah says government is very concerned about the slow pace of investigations into the killing.
In recent years, we dropped from number 1 to number 2 in Africa. It's mostly been because of reports or allegations that some journalists have been attacked or intimidated. There needs to be a proper mechanism for A, validating, and B, following up on these investigations to ensure that persons responsible are sanctioned and are held accountable for their actions. Very concerned, and that's why we continue to chase up on the ministry responsible for the interior, and they do it through the police. But we need some more attention on that kind of investigation. We need to pile some more pressure on them to get to the bottom of it. Let's also admit that all over the world, sometimes they have what they call cold cases. It takes a while before they get to the bottom of it. But it's precisely because of incidents like this. That is why we've put together this coordinated mechanism, so that we can have some coordinated follow-up action and attention on some of these incidents.
In the last few days, there have been concerns about culture of silence. People have said that there's a culture of silence in the system and that media men are not free to be able to criticize government.
Yet to find any television or radio station that will honestly say that they can no longer empanel people because the journalists are not able to report. You guys are here. You report freely any day on anything you want to report. You invite people who disagree with government to express their views on a regular basis. Journalists publish their opinions. Nobody is arrested or jailed or attacked for expressing their opinions. What I've heard is that some persons are not happy that when they put out their view, other people have counter opinions, and they rather than go on the attack that, oh, these persons who are expressing their opinions are saying so because they are on government payroll, or you express your opinion, there's nothing wrong with it. When somebody disagrees with you, that person must be disagreeing because he's on a government payroll. I don't think so. I think that we should give each other that mutual respect when it comes to expressing our opinions. Take the recent case of a very high-profile person who made public comments about the culture of silence. And then a lecturer of a university disagreed with him. And then he proceeded to report to the university that that lecturer should be sanctioned. That is an attempt to create a culture of silence. I think that we have a very open and free environment in this country.
Now, Chairman of the National Media Commission, Yabwedu Ayebwafo, thinks the media must be responsible in the conduct of their responsibilities as they demand for more freedom.
We see to the safety of journalists. I think that we have a primary responsibility to protect the media environment and to ensure that the media remain as relevant as it is. But the relevance of the media is not only when they are free, it is when they are free and responsible. Because, as has been noted, anybody who exercises freedom without responsibility renders that freedom a nullity. Whereas you cannot expect responsibility from anybody who is not free. Because when we are not free, we do not take responsibility for the actions that we do, either because we are compelled to do that or we do not understand why we are doing it. And so it is important for Ghanaian media, Ghanaian journalists, and all those interested in the well-being of the Ghanaian media, that if the media wants to remain significant and relevant to the history of this country, and that when a time comes for the history of democracy to be written, the media are not going to be appendages, but the media are going to stand on their own. That it means that we must do what we ought to do so that we establish a place for ourselves. That we will not just be spectators, that we will be full participants. And that imposes on us some responsibilities. And that is why we must all be worried anytime that we hear that the media had misrepresented information or that the quality of the output from the media is not edifying enough, and Ghanaians are rising up and making resentments and praying that these things do not happen.
You're live on the Pulse. Let's turn our attention to other stories. And female teachers at the Abrasebo-Kwamankese district in the central region are appealing to government to consider extending the maternity leave for teachers to 6 months and also empower female teachers that are posted to deprived areas across the country. According to the female teachers, it's difficult to access good health facilities during delivery and good accommodation when posted to such places. The teachers made the appeal at a roundtable discussion for the Nat Ladies Society at Abrodunko in the central region. Richard Kojonyako has more.
The female teachers recounted the challenges they go through when they are posted to rural communities across the country. District NATLAS coordinator for Abrasebo-Kwamankese district, Catherine Esiam, shared some of the frustrations female teachers go through.
Female teachers are being sent to the rural areas where no incentives are being given, no room, and we know that age waits for no man. So these are some of the issues that confront our female teachers, and we are pleading on the government to come to our aid. If female teachers are being sent to these remote areas where there is no light, there is no water, there is nothing, even healthcare facility is a bit of issue, then why is it that the female teachers are not being empowered through other incentives, through other medium that will help them to push them to the higher level? We are calling on the government to extend the maternity leave for teachers. 3 months is not enough. The hospital or the health facility, the health sector are saying that 6 month breastfeeding. Why 6 month breastfeeding and we are going 3 months maternity leave?
A senior lecturer at the physics department at the University of Ghana, Dr. Nanama Brown Kluche, called for an extra support for female teachers across the country.
We know that currently we have issues with our curriculum. When the new syllabus was out, we don't have the textbook, the approved textbooks that the teachers are supposed to, even if it's approved, the teachers are not having them with them in their classroom, or the school children or students are not having them in the classroom. If we pay attention to teachers and the schools, we know all these challenges will come down a little bit. We have teachers who are posted to deprived areas. They also have the challenges of transportation, accommodation. Even they need the extra motivation to be able to carry out their work. I would advocate that a teacher posted to a village or in a remote area should have an extra, should I say, salary or allowance from a teacher in a city.
The vice chairman of NAT for the district, Ruth Benisachin, prayed female teachers are supported to assume leadership positions. The roundtable discussions afforded the female teachers in the district the opportunity to discuss matters of concern about teachers. Richard Kwejonyako, Joy News, Cape Coast.
Now, the Walewale Divisional Police Command in the Northeast region has begun investigations into the killing of an elephant in the area. Divisional Commander DSP Cosmos Awe spoke to JoyNews and said the move follows a formal complaint filed at the station by officials of the Wildlife Division. The commander warned that anyone found culpable in the incident will be made to face the law. Meanwhile, the regional wildlife manager for Northern Ghana, Joseph Benlinla, who led a delegation to the area, has said the case will be vigorously pursued to get the culprits arrested for prosecution and the pair of tusks retrieved and reverted to the state. Elias Tanko reports.
This is what has been left of the bull elephant, which was pursued and consciously killed by a group of armed locals on Saturday in this small bent forest near the villages of Palio and Misio in the Westman Prosi municipality. The residents have dismembered it and the carcass scattered in tricycles and taken away for consumption. The wildlife officials have been speaking about their findings at the crime scene.
We proceeded to the crime scene, and then when I got there, yes, I saw the exact location of it. The meat, the carcass was already gone. The tusk, which perhaps is the main target of these criminals, was already taken away, and then the meat is gone. We only saw some intestines in the area. This elephant is suspected to have moved from Mole National Park. If you know the geography of the area, a bit of the geography of the area, from the area where the elephant was killed, then you move into the Yaga Back border area, which is close to Mole National Park. Mm-hmm. Yes, so this elephant in particular seemed to have migrated from Mole National Park to feed around and get back into the reserve. So we think that they went to the area to drink water, because it really was close to river. So the long drought that we have experienced is also another factor. They would have come close to the area and fed. An elephant, knowing its migratory routes, historical migratory route, will definitely know that. So we know that there's a stream there, from which they can get water to drink. It wasn't that the elephants was there to cause any harm or was there to destroy people's crop. As the season is not even a farming season, so there was no crop there for the elephant to destroy. And looking at the distance from the community to where the elephant was killed, it was not there to harm anybody. So people intentionally, pursued it, consciously. And what I'm gathering is that, or what I gathered is that, more than 10 hunters pursued it with locally made guns, or they pursued it with shotguns, discharged quite some pellets at it, and the elephant will not budge. When they realized that they couldn't overpower it, they rather went again. Came that masked man may have killed him with a very powerful weapon, because we looked around and saw that the lungs were there, riddled with ammunition. And what we are doing as several men on the ground, what we are doing to ensure that some of these things do not happen.
From the crime scene, the wildlife delegation also paid a courtesy call on and to report the matter to the paramount chief of the area, Nazuri Saka Sulemana. The Wunaba and his elders were prevailed upon by the furious officials to ensure the culprits were found and punished to deter others. The paramount chief, in response, reiterated his condemnation of the act and said he was equally outraged by the incident. He pledged his support for the ongoing investigation. The Divisional Police Commander DSP Cosmos Awe, who is leading the investigation, assured the perpetrators will be arrested.
My station officer called that there were some officials from wildlife who had come to lodge a complaint that during their routine rounds within a place called Monsieur, they saw one of their elephants shot and killed. So they suspected foul play. I asked them to lodge official complaint, and immediately my investigator and some other men joined them to the scene to take photographs and assess the area. We also contacted the chief of Wungu, who is a very good, respected chief, and he helps us so much. We spoke to him to help us, because in the community, once they've seen police presence, the man will go into hiding. And with his assistant, he has promised to get us the suspect. They mentioned somebody, they gave him some name. And he said we should give him the chance to, by the close of today, possibly, he will get us the suspect. So investigation is closed, getting close on him. We hope that we'll get him and then we'll do our investigation and then put him before the law.
Elias Sutanko reporting.
Now, work on the 35-kilometer Wulugu-Kwasenkpe road in the northeast region has come to a halt after armed robbers attacked workers of the construction company at their camp in Du near Wale Wale. 4 masked men armed with AK-47 rifles were said to have attacked the Chinese contractors, City Ghana Construction, and made away with about 30,000 Ghana cedis that was being kept at the camp to pay salaries. The attack also left 1 person injured and some items damaged. Correspondent Elias Utanko has more.
This is a camp of the City Ghana Construction Company where the robbery incident occurred last Wednesday. The chief security will not permit me to film from inside the fence. And right beside the main gate is this structure, serving as the workers' canteen and being managed by this young woman who gave her name as Sekina Danjima. It is here the 4 armed men who arrived on 2 motorbikes started the robbery operation. Sekina has been injured on her right shoulder after she was hit with a rifle as she attempted to resist the armed men who had asked her to hand over all her belongings.
I am the cook here, and on that day, the robbers woke me up from my sleep and asked me to go inside and bring the money. I told them there is no money here. One of them then slapped me, and I threw stone at him. He slapped me again, and I responded saying, There he tried to remove his gun, but I quickly held the rope of the gun and we struggled for several minutes to a point where I nearly disarmed him. Then one of them hit me with a gun.
It is still unclear how the armed men managed to gain access into the fence camp after the long confrontation with the cook right in front of the gate. The chief security of the company, Osian Peter, who declined to be videotaped, narrated his encounter with the robbers.
We were 4 of them. 2 remained outside, 2 entered the place, the gate, and I met them that I met you. They said, they are coming for the money.
Wow.
What money? They said, the money. I said, is somebody who owe you here? If somebody will talk to me, I'm the chief secretary, so let's talk. If somebody is owing you this company, then let me call that person and we'll sort it out. So they said, no. They were pushing me. I was also going down, so I was also insisting that they will not go. So when we get to know that, no, I'm not giving them the chance to go. The one where I smoke, remove era for AK-47, and point it on me. That I should move. I said to where? So they marched me to the office. When we entered the office, they rushed to the accountant, the white man. Said, bring all the money. Bring all the money. Bring all the money.
The Wulugu-Kasingpe road, currently under construction, is an important route linking the West Mamprose municipality to the Mamprugu-Mwaduri district and further to the Upper West region. Contractors have been working round the clock since work on the road began late last year, racing against time to avoid being caught up in delays as the rains are about to set in. The construction of this road is also part of measures by the municipal authorities to enhance security and open up access to certain vital public services such as healthcare and education in the overseas communities. However, since the attack at the camp, workers have abandoned the site and are yet to return, leaving the road blocked with uncompleted bridges, culverts, and heaps of sand and gravels. The attack was reported to the police in Waliwali. DSP Cosmos Awe is the Waliwali Divisional Police Commander.
But we're told that there are 4, 2 each on a motorbike with 2 AK-47, who came to the premises of the company, escorted the chief security into the company office, and went straight to the cashier, asked him where the money is. He should send them, he should hand over the money to them straight away. Then they were firing indiscriminately throughout the company, and I was told they were able to make away with 300,000 cedis, which was meant for workers. That day in question was supposed to be their payday, and people had already queued to collect their payment when these people entered and took the money away. So my team combed the whole area. We did our best. We couldn't get anybody. Then the next morning, I asked them to come and make an official complaint, which they did. And the next morning, I dispatched a team of investigators and a patrol team again to the company to assess what happened. On the ground, we retrieved 11 empty shells, AK-47 empty shells, and 1 BBB cartridge. There are also bullet holes all over the place, through air conditions, walls, doors. They just fired anyhow, but there was no casualty. And now investigations is underway.
Ilyas Tanko reporting.
The latest when it comes to do with the pandemic, and the number of COVID-19 cases in Ghana has dropped marginally from 1,589 to 1,580, according to the latest figures from the Ghana Health Service. Now, of that number, 24 and 6 are critical. Well, 6 are in critical condition. I'll get you those numbers in more clarity better. But we know that 90,324 have recovered. Now, these cases, 48 new cases have been detected in the last few days. The total number of confirmed cases has come up to 92,683, and the number of dead persons is up to 779. Rest in peace to all those who've lost their lives. Now, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta has lifted the COVID-19 lockdown he imposed last month, allowing for a reopening of bars and restaurants, religious services and schools as the rate of infections ease. Now, curbs on travel in the national capital, Nairobi, and 4 surrounding counties will soon be lifted. Schools will be allowed to reopen following an education ministry calendar. Religious services will resume with some restrictions. Now, political gatherings would still be banned. On Zoom with us is Dennis Itumbi. He's a political communications and digital strategist in Kenya. Then it's great to have you. Tell us first of all about the vaccination drive in Kenya. What's the latest on that front?
Well, we still have a small problem on our vaccination program in Kenya, but that, according to the Ministry of Health today, is scheduled for an upgrade, and we therefore hope that most of the population will be able to get vaccinated. As we speak now, we are below 1% of the entire population vaccinated, and the people who got their first shot of the vaccination, the Oxford-based AstraZeneca, are going to have delays on getting the second shot. So, and Kenya has not approved any other vaccine except as the Oxford-based AstraZeneca. You remember that Kenya played a big role in the trials of AstraZeneca in its initial stages in November last year, and that explains why the Kenyan government went for the AstraZeneca vaccine. But due to the crisis in India, there has been delays in bringing the vaccine to Kenya. So that's where we are on vaccination in Kenya. But from the communication of the Ministry of Health here today, there is likely to be an upgrade on that front.
Now, I'm curious about the approval of vaccines, because for us here in Ghana, our Ministry of Health quickly approved the Sputnik V vaccines. Is there any work, and we know that some of those vaccines have already been received, is there any work being done in approving any other kinds of vaccines so that the people of Kenya can receive them soon?
Well, there is a problem on that. In terms of approvals of vaccines, there is definitely a problem in the Kenyan side, and therefore still a bit slow. Unlike Ghana, where you have approved Sputnik, here there is already a tug of war between Sputnik, those bringing Sputnik privacy, and whether or not government wants that to be available. Of course, there is some argument by experts that we should have vaccines that are available for everyone, those who want to, those who can afford to purchase, and those who get it free from government. So that's the situation here now.
Dennis, before you go ahead, we are having a challenge with seeing your video at this end, so if you can turn that on. Whilst you do that, I know that there will be many who will be relieved that the second lockdown has been lifted. However, the information we have is that there are still some people who are living in curfew. Can you explain that to us?
Well, yes, the curfew is such a challenge here, partly because, you know, COVID-19 brings up the political bit, then it brings up the social bit. So due to the curfews affect mainly the hospitality sector, which then comes with the transportation sector, guys who do Uber, guys involved in transportation, especially for those people working in, say, retail like supermarkets, late-night manufacturers. So the curfew has, for the last 1 year, moved in between 8 p.m. Kenyan time, which should be 3 hours difference with you in Ghana. The bit of the night economy, what we call the nighttime economy, has really affected quite a number of people. And that has caused a social movement in Kenya where you find artists, especially, because they then rely on the gigs they get during operational hours of bars, which are closed here now for over a year. Opened a little bit during this latest communication a week ago, but only up to 7 p.m. Kenyan time. That should be around 4 p.m. Ghanaian time. That has really affected a whole cluster of a number of people in the participation of the economy, especially socially.
Dennis Itumbi, thank you very much for joining us on The Pulse here on Joy News. You're live on the Joy News channel. This is your home of fearless, credible, and independent journalism. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Pulse. And parents who have their wards at Achimota Preparatory School have protested against police and the GAS after about 20 fully armed policemen led by the Municipal Director of Education at Okaikoyi North Assembly, Madam Cynthia Aboni, invaded the school last Friday.
Our school was invaded during school hours by about 20 fully armed police officers led by the Municipal Director of Education, Okaikoyi North Assembly, without any warning. The barbaric action of the GES and the Ghana police on the school and the children have left a scar that may never be healed. Currently, as we speak, some of our children have been severely traumatized to the point that a child had to bleed unexpectedly, caused by their action. Many parents are having to cancel their traumatized children about this action. We are appalled by the preconceived action of these state officials who, by their standing, should know better. APS has had its problem with the Achimota School Board, but the mundane action of the GES is not benefiting of its name. They must be cautioned for such an unthoughtful act. The GES claim they have a court ruling in their favor. They also claim they have a court order to enforce the ruling, but we do not see how one enforces a court order before the service of that order or even a notice of it.
We'll stay with education, and it's time for us to discuss the National Science and Maths quiz. Right, let me connect quickly to my colleague Manuel Kranting, who is standing by. Manuel, so you spoke to us yesterday from the Upper West region, promising very exciting competitions today. What's the latest update?
So Daniel, you're right about the excitement of the competitions, and you know that yesterday, St. Francis of Assisi.
Right, Manuel, it's a bit difficult to hear you. Right, I think it's better now. Please go ahead.
So I was saying that you remember that the St. Francis girls of Assisi made the highest marks yesterday at the very first stage of the qualifiers. Well, today, the story seems a bit different. Their colleagues from St. Francis Xavier Junior Seminary have rather taken the top spot with an impressive 58 points at the end of their final contest, which was, of course, the very first in the second stage of the qualifiers. But this makes them the highest scoring school in the Upper West region. And we've been trying to do a bit of the comparison with what's going on in Accra. So far, what we've seen is that the St. Thomas Aquinas SHS made 56 points, and that's the highest we've seen from here so far. And in the Upper West region, they're making as much as 58 points. Tells you of how much work and dedication went into their preparation for the contest. The second and final contest of the second stage of the qualifiers is currently ongoing, featuring Canton Senior High School, St. Francis of Assisi Girls School, WA SHS, and then Laura SHS. But at the end of the first two rounds, it's rather in a very unexpected turn of events. Canton Senior High School that is leading the chart, with St. Francis Girls School struggling to even maintain a third spot in the competition. Well, it waits to be seen. We're currently in the third round, which is, of course, a true or false round. It waits to be seen how that's going to inure to the benefit of any of the competing schools currently. It's worth noting, however, that there are 5 spots to be occupied by the competing schools. And so just like I told you yesterday, after the first round of qualifiers, there are about 7 schools that were isolated to compete in what the National Science and Maths Quiz calls the champion of champions. And so all the winning schools from all the contests that were held yesterday are now facing it off to occupy 5 spots which have been allocated to the region. And so, of course, St. Francis Xavier Junior Seminary has been able to pick a spot which is undisputed for them. They are to the national tournament later in October. Now, there are 4 remaining spots that are waiting to be occupied. and we'll know at the end of the current contest which particular schools are going to be occupying the 4 remaining. But like I said earlier, currently...
Right. Manuel Kranting, they're joining us from the Upper West region. Thanks, Manuel, for coming through with those updates. We'll be getting more from you in other regional contests from across the country. It's that time of the year again. The National Science and Maths Quiz is live.
A purposely designed engineering material created by combining single materials. Yes, Isaac?
Composites.
Composites. I was reading the 5th clue, 3 points. At the end of the contest, here are the final scores. Opokuwari School has 21 points. Sadel College has 31 points. Presec Legon has 36 points. Opokuwari School, congratulations for making it all the way to the grand finale. You did well, but unfortunately, anyway. Sadel College, congratulations to you also. Thank you for giving us a great contest. Unfortunately, you couldn't take the trophy, but you did well. You did very well. I'm happy to declare you 2nd place. Presec Legon. Congratulations on winning the contest. Very well done. You have won the championship. I am pleased to congratulate you on your achievement as 2020 National Science and Math Quiz champions. Hooray!
They came in the year 1995 and they were champions. In 2003, they were champions. In 2006, they were champions. In 2008, they were champions. In 2009, they were champions. And in 2020,
I must say that your beloved Presec will be taking part in the regional championship from tomorrow of the NSMQ. You saw them lifting that victorious trophy from last year. I must say every single second was a dagger at my heart, being an Infantipim boy. But
being the Infantipim, also known as the Presec, the Cape Coast Presec, yes.
Look, I'll cut you off my show. Gary Al Smith there. All the best in this year's competition. The Greater Accra Regional Championship is tomorrow. Presec would want to defend their trophy because they did not just win the Nationals last year. They won the regionals as well. But we'll see what happens when we all come to Accra. That's it for the Pulse. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. Right, as you can see there, agitated citizens will embark on the hashtag Fix the Country protest on May 8th. Read more on that. That was one of our lead stories today. Otiko Java says, we mentioned zip up, girls should close their legs. She was speaking on the teenage pregnancy surgeon. Congratulations to Sam Jatta George. He's been ordained as an elder of the Perez Chapel International. The member of parliament from Ningo Prampram looks so somber in that pose. Also, unfortunate story there. A woman sustains deep wounds from her husband after denying him sex. On that grim note, we make way for Let's Talk Showbiz. That's LTS here on JoyNews. My name is Daniel Daze. See you tomorrow.